Welcome to the JBs Powercast, your fast lane to industry news, local events, racing, aftermarket parts, and nearly everything automotive. The JBs Powercast starts now.
We're back, episode 2.
Indeed, back again, another week, 2 weeks later.
2 weeks later, that's right. A little different. I think the break's good.
I think it's good. It's necessary. Yeah, it's a good amount of spacing. Lets us definitely not plan this a day ahead, right?
We never did that before, did we?
No, never. No, we always planned out lots of things. It was never the morning of. No, absolutely not.
And if we did do that, I blame those that are involved with us, as in Sean Landsman.
That aren't us.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, of course. It's the producer.
Yeah, I mean, he's the guy that gets all the money.
That's right. It was just, we're the underpaid talent being rushed to put out a product.
Yeah. I'm just thankful Sean hasn't brought a gun to set and said it's a prop gun, and said, hey, stand over here, but we'll leave it.
Yep, I'm not going to touch that one. All right, so what are we talking about? Let's jump into it. So
SEMA?
Actually, 2 weeks ago when we started, it was SEMA week. We were day 2 into SEMA. So we're a couple weeks after SEMA. And we thought we'd just talk about a couple things. One of the issues with doing a SEMA recap, which we quickly figured out, was that it's such a visual thing. And we know that not everyone is going to be able to see if we have some images.
Absolutely.
It's got to be a podcast first and foremost. So just talking about cool cars, there's something lost in translation. We don't want to bore anybody.
That's right.
So that being said, SEMA happened. There's a couple things that is interesting. One of the neat things about SEMA, and it's always been this way, and it continues to be this way, is it really sets the trend for basically the next year in automotive aftermarket as far as styling, products coming out, the way that guys want to do their builds. It's where you see both the craziest, most ridiculous things that no one will ever do ever again, but also some of the weird ideas that guys go, oh, I like that. And then you start seeing that trickle down into some normal stuff.
You bet.
So, trends as far as what I noticed, obviously electrification, huge trend.
Yeah.
They know what's going on, and there's a lot of electric swapped vehicles there. That is obviously a big pushing trend in the aftermarket. We talked about it with some of the new electric crate motors are coming out.
You bet. But innovation as well. It's SEMA has it because that's the smaller guy thinking outside the box and trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
And he goes to SEMA as his platform to try to show it off to the world. Hence the hydrogen converted LS.
Exactly.
And that is cool. So you see that, and maybe that guy doesn't, become an overnight millionaire or a success story, and he's the hydrogen Elon Musk, for example. But what it does is it inspires other people to go, well, if he did it, and he had the opportunity to show it off, maybe I can think of something.
Sure.
Right? And I think that is SEMA in itself, and that's why it's survived for however many years, and it's a go-to with everything automotive.
Absolutely. Well, and it puts a spotlight on that too. All of a sudden now we've got this, a lot of them, and why it ends up being so successful is they tie a lot of these things in with otherwise big names. Like that was with Redline Oil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would we have ever heard about that guy anytime soon had his truck not have been their Redline truck?
That's right.
Probably not.
No.
And I think that's where you get a lot of these smaller niche type things that partner up and they build a cool project and they get them in the show, and all of a sudden now they have international
recognition.
Yeah, recognition.
It's cool. I like it. I've been fortunate enough to attend SEMA a couple times, and you never see it all. It's so big. You try to, but it's cool.
My last year there, I made a point. I was like, this year I'm going to see it all. And I did, and I don't remember half of it. That's the problem, right? Is the only way to see it all is to not really take any of it all in.
Right.
And so it's like it's one or the other. It's like you focus on the good stuff that you want to pay attention to,
sure,
and you soak that in. Or you see the whole show top to bottom, and there's so much your brain just literally doesn't have the capacity to remember it. Guys are like, oh yeah, do you remember this booth? I'm like, I know I was there.
Right.
Nope.
Nope. It would be nice to have a video replay. Right?
Yeah,
totally. of just like at the hockey game, somebody scored a goal and you're like, hey, I need to see that again. And you look up and you look again because you forgot what you just seen 8 seconds ago. But I'm with you. It's a lot to take in. and you want to get to every section possible. But yeah, it's when you're done, you're done.
Yeah. So we wanted to pull out a couple of honorable mentions, some very SEMA-esque builds, because they always have manufacturer prototypes. Ford always has stuff, and Chevy. They always have, they are almost always not vehicles that will be built, but that's where they take their cool, weird ideas. And then you have the guys that just do these ridiculous projects, and sometimes they're cool, and sometimes they're there for reasons. But just to give a couple of examples of some of these things that you would never see these anywhere else. These are not going to be at your car shows. These are great examples of SEMA builds. Some of these, courtesy of Mr. Sean Lansman, dug these up. I went digging through like a photo dump gallery of SEMA projects. And again, it's so overwhelming. I was like, I don't even know. What do you pick?
Yeah, 100%.
The first one we're going to talk about is PPE. That was the sponsorship. They're big diesel aftermarket guys. They do lots of different parts and performance stuff. So they had this Duramax swapped 1970 Chevelle Super Sport, which right out of the gate is like, oh, well, that's kind of weird. But a Duramax swap in a car, it's certainly not the first one. Guys have done them. They tend to not always. It's a weird thing because like Duramax, they make a lot of horsepower and a lot of torque, but like it's usually if you're going to build a Chevelle, you put a big block in it, or you do whatever it is. Not only is it a Duramax, it's a 1,200 horsepower dynoed Duramax, and they chromed the shit out of it. The car itself looks absolutely stunning. Beautiful paint on it. It's a perfect SS with a 1,200 horsepower Duramax motor in it.
You look at that and you're like, when the first person, you say, oh, I put a diesel in my whatever car, Corvette, whatever it might be. The first thing you think of is like, okay, farm guy has a Corvette, thinks, hey, how cool would this be? Right? This is like John Dutton, wealthy, I own 4 million acres of farmland and I want to do something cool that nobody's done. I didn't just put a diesel in it. I chromed the whole damn thing. The car is rare on its own, being an SS. And how about 1,200 horsepower out of my diesel? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's kind of a perfect storm of like, you've got the Chevelle guys, and there's some really nice Chevelles there. And you've got the diesel guys. And then there's some weird Venn diagram with someone with way too much money who's like, all right, what if? And then you get this. And again, it's cool. It's insanely unique. I can guarantee it's the only one like that.
For sure.
And that is, again, it's sort of in a nutshell, that's the kind of stuff that you see at SEMA. So it's good to highlight that stuff.
And again, it's back to beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Absolutely.
Right? Again, you look at that car with the hood down, you're like, that is a nice Chevelle. Then you realize that, and
you're like, wait a minute, hold on.
It's like, well, never mind.
The next one, this is going in a insanely different direction. So this is, I believe that in the article it says this is the world's tallest lift on like a regular truck. Obviously, like you can't compare it to like a monster truck. That's a different thing.
That's different thing.
We're not talking about that. So this is a 38-inch lift on a Ram, like a 5th gen, a new Ram, and a white Ram, obviously. It's all airlift, which is really, really cool. It's got these, the biggest, most aggressive tires you can put on it. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely astonishingly ridiculous. It makes no sense whatsoever.
No, you look at that and you're like, first you say is why? And then you're like, you say why again? Because why? There's no explanation for it. I get it. It's one off, and you look at that, and I mean, I guess where the person's from, or maybe that lifted truck they needed for the swamp, or I don't know. But you look at this thing, and if you guys get a chance to look at it, it's unbelievable how this looks. Like it just somewhere. A sister wife got pregnant after a guy looked at that because it did something for somebody.
And it did something for somebody.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I guess if I was at SEMA talking personally, I'd, nice, and just kind of keep strolling by because the hell's the point?
Yeah, like I said, it really doesn't make any sense other than like, it's very much a look what I can do kind of thing. It's the world's biggest lift, obviously accompanies the world's smallest penis. I mean, that was just, I had to, it's there. You have to make the joke.
Of course it is.
You have to
of
make
course
the
it
joke.
is.
Yeah.
I mean, the higher you go,
the smaller
it is.
I'm pretty sure that's the rule.
Yeah, oh yeah. And that's even if you measure from the ass forward, it's still
Definitely.
small. Yeah,
So I mean, 38 inches up, I don't know what the ratio is, but we might be into negative territory. I think that's an innie, technically.
Couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Couldn't tell you.
Wouldn't know. The guy didn't disclose.
Yeah. And my truck is slammed to the ground. If that tells you anything.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course it is. I don't even drive a truck. What does that tell you?
It might tell people a lot. I don't know.
Okay, moving on. The last one we were talking about here is a concept from Minoe. This is Chevy that came out with this.
Sure.
So this is their off-road. Now, when I say off-road truck, immediately you'll think of an off-road package on the truck.
Yep.
This is quite a bit different. So they've nicknamed this the Beast, and it lives up to its name. It looks so badass. Under it all, it's on a half-ton, slightly modified chassis, obviously.
Yep.
But I mean, it's, obviously they did some renders. I'm pretty sure that Steve has a picture of it at the hall. So yeah, you can see they built a prototype of it. It looks so good.
It looks like the adult version of a side-by-side.
Totally, it does. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
It just, it's like, here, son, you have this Polaris one. Your dad's going to go get the Beast.
Right.
And see if you can keep up.
Now, again, I mean, it clearly would serve no practical purpose.
None whatsoever.
To a normal person with a job.
Yep.
But it is a really cool piece of, again, it's sort of like, hey, we've got some money, we've got a whole prototype department.
Sure.
What if we just built a truck designed for off-roading and, made it look really, really cool. I think they absolutely nailed the styling, just as far as like, it's very, well, and Steve and I talked about this, the hot take that everyone had on this is, and if you don't know the reference, then it might be lost on you, but the Halo video game series, there's a very famous truck in that's called the Warthog. It's like the military truck.
Yes.
It looks exactly like that.
It does. It does.
And it really screams this sort of near future military off-road kind of thing. It's super duper badass.
What does Chevy know that we don't about the future of the world and needing that type of vehicle?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, now that you mention Halo, it does absolutely have that striking resemblance.
Yeah.
To me, I like the fact that these big corporations, obviously not the small guys we were initially talking about, but they give these guys free wheel on design, develop, be creative. And by looking at that, now that you mentioned it, you'd think that, well, one of these guys in their R&D department might be a gamer and said, what would be really cool?
100%, yeah.
If we got to do, and then holy shit, now it's something. And how proud would you be that, hey, favorite game, favorite thing, here it is. It's unbelievable. It truly is. I like it.
I think it looks great. Yeah, I like it a lot too. And it's one thing to design it on paper and make some fancy renders and stuff, and that's all cool. And they'll do that all day in prototyping. But then to put one together, I mean, obviously it runs and drives. I don't know what motor's in it. Actually, the article said, I don't recall exactly, but it's got I do remember. It has the supercharged motor from the last gen Z06, so it makes like 650 horsepower.
Even better.
LT4, I think?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, awesome.
Right
Whatever
on.
it is,
Yeah,
wicked.
that, again, when you have it at your disposal.
When you're Chevrolet Motors, it's like, what do you want to put in it?
Yeah.
Do we have any blown LSs laying around? Yeah, a lot of them.
Yeah.
All right, that.
Yeah. One can wish it at some point,
yes,
right?
One can
that
wish.
you can, build me that, and then just grab one of those and put that in, and I don't like that. Try this. Yeah.
Do we have any leftover motors from that last Corvette?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we got a dozen. All right, throw it in there.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything else with them.
The human spirit, tell you, man, it's a good thing. It never stops trying to push forward, because we could all still be driving the same old pickup truck and nobody would have changed a damn thing.
That's a good segue into the next little bit here. So that's kind of the quick and dirty on SEMA. Again, you're not going to spend a ton of time talking about it, because it'll mostly just be doing that, talking about cars that a lot of people can't see unless you go Google it.
Right, and next year, you and I would like to be there live with Steve and Sean, so that we can actually walk you guys through SEMA.
That's right, and I think that's the plan. I think Sean said he's going to fly us all down to SEMA next year.
Well, it's now in the episode, so now I think we have to.
Now it's canon. We have to put it in.
Exactly. Our viewers want to see us in Vegas for SEMA.
Yeah, live on location.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good,
Yep.
done. I'll
Okay.
book the hotel.
Thank you.
So the next thing we're going to talk about, again, this is moving away from SEMA. This is a really interesting story. It came out about a week ago, and a few different places picked it up and dug into it. So, I mean, we've all heard of supercars, you know,
All the time.
Lambos, Ferraris. One would argue that the new Z06 is very much a supercar.
You bet.
I've heard of hypercars,
Yeah.
Bugattis,
Oh, yeah.
etc. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
the very rare, the very expensive. Well, there's a new company that has decided to start making what they have dubbed the world's first ultra car, one step above.
Right.
So the company is, and you've sort of looked into it a little bit as I have. The company is, what is it? Spiros.
Yeah.
Spiros Panopoulos.
Panopoulos. Yeah.
Which sounds very Greek because it is.
Born and raised in Athens.
There you go. So this car, just to give some specs, Steve's going to have some renders up. It's, first of all, insanely, it looks the part as far as a crazy, striking ultra car, the thing you'd expect it to look like, right?
You bet. It looks a little Ferrari. Then in the back it has a little Bugatti to it with the pipes.
Yep.
It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to build my own car. I'm just going to copy what everybody else did, but I'm going to put it all into one and make my own.
You know what? It's funny. I was reading the article and somebody had a comment about like, it really looks like somebody just took styling cues from all of the current supercars and sort of put them in a blender and threw it on paper. and
right.
That's very true. It
Right.
really kind of has a piece of everything in it. So there's, we'll get into specs a little bit here. The story is interesting because on the one hand, once we start talking about specs, it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It's almost to the point of like, it's laughable.
Right.
Because it's so ludicrous to this point where it's like, where do you even go with an ultra car? So they have two versions of it.
Okay.
There's the quote unquote base model,
Right.
which is, so the make is called Chaos. That's what the car is called.
Yeah.
And Chaos Earth is the base level,
Yeah.
the poor man's
Yeah,
one.
yeah, hey.
And then the trimmed up one is the Chaos Zero Gravity. So the Zero Gravity has an engine that makes 3,065 horsepower, I believe is what it's rated at. 3,065 horsepower. A second ago, we were talking about that Duramax that makes 1,200 horsepower.
Right.
And that's like, holy shit, impressive.
Right.
This is almost 3 times that.
That's right. It's almost as if the 1,000 is the benchmark to keep working hard, right?
Right, but like you could have come out with an ultra car and said it makes 1,500 horsepower, and everyone would have gone, "Oh my god!"
Right, and it's a dual motor, like we talked about the one previously. That wow, holy shit! But
Right.
no, how about 3,000 horsepower?
So it is exclusively on E85. I know that they've set that. So the regular one runs on regular gas,
Right.
i.e. premium, obviously, or race gas, likely.
Yeah.
You know, and it's certainly not your Shell 87.
No.
But this one's E85 only.
Yeah.
But they're claiming 3,065 horsepower. Now it's a twin turbo V10. It's an all original in-house motor, which is very surprising.
It is, and you know when we talked about this the other day about putting it on the show, I thought I'd do a little bit of back check on it. So, the company is named after the founder, and this guy's legit. So this guy, and I'll read this off.
Yeah.
He's won the world horsepower record and reached 1,550 horsepower per 1,000 cc's.
Really?
So you think about this, and you're like, okay, this is not just. You've heard of the Lykan Hypersport.
Of course.
So cool looking car, Fast and the Furious made this big fucking deal, who
Yep.
cares? You know, it jumps buildings, all that. Hey, great. You read about Lykan Hypersport, the son of a wealthy Lebanese Dubai businessman, told his son, here's $50 million and have at her, build your own car, I'm proud of you.
Right.
Fine. All good, he did it, sold a few, nobody's ever seen them, nobody ever will, whatever. This guy, though, it's not like he just was a spoiled this whatever. No. This guy was a part of F1. He's got records for horsepower, designed his own engine. I mean, you were telling me yesterday that the engine in this car is completely 3D printed.
Yeah, so almost everything on the car is completely 3D
There you
printed.
go.
Yeah. So like from a technical standpoint, the car really changes the game quite a bit.
It's unreal.
So I don't remember the exact percentage, but it's something like 88% of the car is 3D printed. And I'm not talking about plastic.
No.
Because we've been able to now, we can 3D print most materials. So the engine block is 3D printed.
Crankshaft.
Yes, the crankshaft is 3D printed. The wheels are 3D printed. The body is 3D printed. The interior is 3D printed from different materials: carbon fiber, magnesium, aluminum. There's this fancy polymer called Vion that's like a super strength polymer.
Right.
And it allows them to come up with some, there's the con rods. Those are 3D printed aluminum connecting rods. It allows them to come up with some absolutely crazy looking designs too, right? Because a lot of the interior pieces, the steering wheel, they have these very, very interesting designs to them. You wouldn't be able to make those with a mold or a cast.
No way.
They have to be 3D printed.
Yeah.
And so it really kind of gets into this, and I think we had mentioned this the other day. It starts bridging this interesting gap between engineering and art, where you can make these really intricate, cool-looking things functional and strong.
That's right.
In their press release thing, they give a lot of different specs, and a lot of them are like, on individual pieces. Like I said, there's some suspension stuff and like the connecting rods. They give like specific, like, it will be able to support this much strength, and it can have this much, pounds per whatever, and tensile strength.
Absolutely.
So they're not. At first glance, it's like, what the fuck is this?
Right.
There's a lot of potentially really interesting tech going on here. And like the car might, if they ever make one, might actually be what they claim it to be.
And how crazy is that? The question I have is everybody claims fastest production this, fastest production that. So I had to read a little bit about it to see if there was an actual recognized world definition of what a production car was. And there isn't. So you and I can build a car, we can produce it, and in our own right say this is a production car and it's a one of whatever.
Right.
I don't think there's ever going to be anything else like this.
No.
If this legitimately is sold and somebody actually drives it and there's actually spy footage of it moving, holy, like, wow.
So they've said that they're planning on building 100 of them worldwide. The cost for the zero gravity is somewhere in the realm of about 15 million.
Right.
So it's no joke, obviously, because the pictures that we see are renders. They haven't built any yet. They might have produced some components. It being all 3D printed, it's 100%. It's built to order. They've said they've taken one deposit, so they are building one so far. They've said next year, 2022, when they have that first one built, they will be proving their numbers and their specs. They're going to prove it's the world's fastest production car. They're going to take it to the Nürburgring like everything else does.
Sure.
And they claim they say that the only thing that will beat it in a race will be an F1 car. It does 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds.
It's pretty ballsy to say that.
It's super
F1
ballsy
car,
to say that.
like, I mean, everybody knows the F1 cars, they can go into a wind tunnel and go upside down and not move and all that shit. To say that you're going to be faster than that?
Well, they say that that's the only thing that will be able to beat it.
Okay,
yes.
the only thing that will be. Okay.
Yeah. Which is interesting because an F1 car is not a production car, obviously.
Right.
So it's kind of like saying we're the fastest. I mean, I guess, we're the fastest production car ever. The only thing that can beat us is a legitimate race car. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How much is an F1 car?
Not 15 million?
Exactly.
I don't think. I mean, I'm not an F1 guy, but I mean, I don't think they're 15 mil.
No.
They're also not 3D printed.
No, but maybe now.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm sure they 3D print a few parts.
And I think like this company, part of their heritage is they've developed some of this 3D printing technology to make these complex, complicated parts for other supercars.
Yeah.
For Lamborghinis and Ferraris and Bugattis and whatever, McLarens and stuff. So they do have some. There's some legitimacy there, but will we ever see the $15 million, chaos, zero gravity, 3,000 horsepower car? I hope so.
Me too.
Geez, I hope.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Realistically, we'll probably get the budget model in Alberta.
Yeah.
Somebody will finance that for 50 years. And
I think the budget model's I think it's only like 11 million or something.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Please.
See him lined up at Costco for fuel
Yeah,
too.
get out of here. Get a job. Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool because, again, the guy's legit. He knows his stuff, and he has a passion to build this car, and he wants it to be the best. Like I told you before, I just keep thinking John DeLorean.
Yeah.
He was smart. He knew everything he needed to know. He made General Motors a shit ton of money, and then he said, I could do it better, and we all know the story of that. Mm-hmm. So hopefully this guy doesn't have to do that, but whatever, if he's got to sell some cocaine to make it work, it'll be a great Netflix series at some point.
That's right. I'm sure he won't be above that.
No, nobody is. No, come on now. Yeah, no. Depending on what the key of a uncut Nicaraguan is, I don't know, but
Yeah. But real quick to follow up, I don't know. Yeah. Do you know? Does anyone know? Certainly I don't.
I'd probably I'd cross the border.
You have a pretty new truck.
I do,
And a race car.
Yeah.
A couple of cars.
Yeah.
I think you might know.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
One of your many
Yeah.
side gigs.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
heard so much about.
Yeah, there's a few. There's a few. Yeah, and that's why I'm sitting here next to you and working, because the side gigs are going so well.
Right. Yeah. Wait, are you getting paid for this? All right, well, let's take a little break.
Sure.
We'll do an ad, and we'll come back and shift gears again and talk about something totally different.
Yeah, see you after the break.
You bet.
Power. The dictionary says it's the change in energy over a period of time. We'll make it easy for you. Power is MBRP. Increased performance, fuel economy, assertive tone. That's an MBRP high-flow performance exhaust system. Shop the largest selection of MBRP exhaust from JBs Power Center in Edmonton and Calgary at the guaranteed lowest prices or online at jbspowercenter.com.
Okay.
Well, that was a quick break.
Yeah, well, I pee fast.
I don't. We'll have to change that for the next one. Like I need another 35 seconds.
Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit of a different conversation. And so something happened recently, this week, or last week, where Acura, actually a while ago, Acura teased an image, and it said Integra.
Right.
And everyone went, yes, that's what we want. We want an Integra. Remember that car? I remember that car. I had one, and my buddy had one, and we loved it, and it was in video games.
Sure.
Yes, please, that's what we want. A sports car, Integra, yes. And Acura said, okay. And then so the car came out, and everyone simultaneously on the internet went, boo.
Right, yeah.
Because it's not a, okay, well, just really quickly, because I don't really want to talk about the car that much. It's not a coupe.
God, is that ugly.
Well, here's the thing. It's, okay, well, yes,
Okay,
we'll circle back. Everyone simultaneously booed this car because it's not what they wanted.
Right.
And what they wanted was what they think the Integra is. But what do they think the Integra is? That's really what I want to talk about. So
Sure.
everyone has this idea of this car, and I only bring it up because this is the most recent time, and it's happened a lot of times.
Sure.
And manufacturers tend to like to do this thing where they take a name that has made them particularly famous, or the car itself, you know, has a heritage for this name, and they bring it back, and then it goes one of two ways.
Always.
It goes very well,
Yeah.
or it goes very poorly.
Yep.
Sometimes a little bit in the middle, but
Sure.
and I get it, it's kind of a risky thing to do. But what's really the problem? Is the problem the car, or is the problem how we perceive the name of the car? So, and I'm just going to use the Integra as the first example.
Sure.
Let's pretend it's 1992 or 3, whenever
Yep.
the first Integra came out.
Yeah,
right?
you bet.
As we all know, the Integra, and I'm going to get, in this conversation, slightly sport compact nerdy.
That's okay.
Just because I know it
Yeah.
a little bit more.
There's 6 feet between us. We're good.
Yeah. So, you know, what was it at the time? Acura obviously was Honda's luxury division.
That was the thing.
Luxury, you know, is a bit of a throwaway term.
Sure.
Acuras are nice. Sure. Hondas are nice.
Yep.
Okay, fine. So the 90s, they wanted a coupe to go on the Civic platform, right? Honda had the Civic, Acura had the what? Well, we need something. So we're going to come out with this car. We're going to call it the Integra. Well, when it came out, there was a coupe, there was a sedan. It was the same as the Civic. Shared most of the underpinnings, shared the engine, shared the tranny.
Yep.
A little bit different. That's just how they did it. It wasn't even that much upscaled.
No.
It wasn't luxury by any means.
No, not at all.
Most of the Integras that were sold, like, yeah, I'm sure 80, 90% of them were Integra LSs.
Sure.
Every Integra that I've ever seen, basically, that everyone I know was an LS. You know what that car was? Totally fine. It was fine.
Right.
It wasn't bad.
No.
Certainly wasn't great.
No.
It was fine.
Yep.
And then there was the Type R. Yeah, that was a good car.
Yeah.
Had the VTEC motor in it, had a 6-speed, didn't have an LSD. It was just a pretty good 90s front-wheel drive coupe sports car. Was it like way better than the Civic variant, the SI? No, not really. Like they were about the same.
Yeah.
But people really liked it, and the further they got away from it in time, the further they remembered it.
Sure.
And then, so like many other cars, nostalgia kicks in, and they start remembering this car. Because, yeah, my buddy had an Integra, an LS in high school, but I remember the Type R. Man, I wanted one.
Yeah.
I wanted one so bad. That's always the catch, right?
Of course.
I wanted one so bad. So fast forward, 25 years, and not like the Integra's been gone for 25 years, but really it's been since the mid to late 90s when anyone really, when you could buy one.
Yep, that's right.
And it's a nameplate that everyone remembers as being, I think it's funny, and I do this too. I like it because like people our age, now it tends to be the cars that are getting the most nostalgia resurgence are 90s cars.
Sure.
Because that's the cars that we wanted and couldn't afford when we were like in high school, right?
Yep.
That's just
We're the
shit.
next generation.
Exactly, we're the next generation.
Yep.
So a lot of those cars, because really, honestly, domestic cars in the 90s were pretty shit.
Oh, absolute shit.
So most of the best cars were all imports, and a lot of them were Japanese.
Of course.
And so they really get this rose-tinted lens. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Nostalgia is a wonderful thing.
It is.
But it changes how you perceive something that doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And I think you're right. We're changing, and we want what used to be, but the way we envision it ourselves. Not that, hey, it's an Integra and I liked it because it was a reliable vehicle, it got good gas mileage, and hey, if it happened to get the Type R, it was really cool, even though I don't know what Type R means, but hey, I got a Type R.
Right.
But now they're going, hey, you're a family man, and yeah, you want an Integra? That bitch needs to be 4 doors.
Sure, but even then, it's like, yeah, so you're Acura in the 90s. You have to make a car that appeals to people. You have to make a car that's going to sell. It's got to be reliable, like you said. It's got to have some sportiness to it. But like there's no way a car manufacturer at the time knows what's going to be
Ever.
a popular or famous car 20 years later,
Sure.
right? So like for them, that car was very much just, it was a spot that needed to be filled. It happened to be pretty good.
Yep.
The Type R had a good engine in it and a good transmission, and that's about it. And I'm not shitting on it. It was a good car.
Oh, yeah.
And so now we're 2021, and they say, all right, baby, let's make an Acura. And everyone goes, hooray!
Right. Yep.
And it's reliable, and it has a 6-speed, and it has a turbo in it, and it has an LSD, and it comes in fun colors. And what the fuck is the problem with that?
Right.
Nothing. It's a great car, but it's not what any of us wanted, and us being this very small part of the car buying population that is the enthusiast.
Yeah, and wants to be 16 again or 17 again and ripping in their Integra.
Right. But then, like, who are the people writing all the articles and writing for Motor Trend and writing for, like,
of course.
They're largely, it's going to be 30 to 40-year-olds who are unfortunately just tainting their perspective with nostalgia a little bit. And I don't really think that it's fair. And I also, when it came out, I booed it.
Right.
But then the more you think about it, it's like, okay, well, take away the old one for 2 seconds.
Right.
Just forget about the old one for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And look at it as it exists today. Is it pretty? No.
No, it's not.
Not from the side. And like it's been thrown up a bunch of times. Oh, it's basically a a Honda Accord Cross Tour. And yes, it is.
It is, yes.
But also, like, so?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
They made it. They still wanted it to be some kind of hatch. They made it a 5-door instead of a 2-door.
Yeah.
All right, fine.
I'm with you, and you're right. Take away what your perception of what it was, and where you were in high school and all that. Put this vehicle up in front of you, have a look at it, see what it is, and you're like, actually, it's a pretty good vehicle.
Right, and like, did they? Here's the problem. Did they need to call it an Integra? They didn't. Would it have been better received if they would have called it some other Acura-sounding name, like a ILX or a QR?
Which is exactly what they do.
Whatever?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
And they decided to take a risky thing and call it something that existed. But again, this has been the trend of car manufacturers cashing in on their old things.
Of course.
The Supra is a really good example of where it can fall both ways.
Sure.
So obviously now Toyota, shame on you, Toyota. Toyota strung us along on this new Supra for the better part of 18 months.
Sure.
I don't know, 2 years maybe. It was like, ooh, we're going to make a new Supra.
Yep.
And there had already been rumors basically since the old one died. And forever and forever, we eventually found out that it was a cross thing with BMW, a cross development thing, and everyone, ooh, I don't know if I like that.
Right.
Ooh, is it a Toyota or is it a BMW? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then so the car comes out, and it's a mixed result. Some people really like it.
Yeah.
Some people were mad about it.
Sure.
What's interesting is, like, to me, again, they're reigniting this nameplate that when the car came out in the 90s, it was absolutely not heralded as this amazing, fantastic, can-do-it-all, can't be blown up sports car.
Nope.
It was a very pretty good sports car.
Sure.
I found I think it was from a Road and Track or a Motor Trend back in like '94 reviewing it, and it's like, yeah, pretty good power, pretty good handling.
Sure.
But I think it said, it lacks the true sports car experience that an RX-7 has,
Sure.
and it lacks the refined interior of a Nissan 300ZX, and like they weren't putting it on this pedestal that we put it on.
Exactly.
Because over the next X number of years and X number of Fast and Furious movies.
That's it right there, yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, it is a good car. And sure, yeah, they put a really bulletproof inline-6 in it.
They did.
Good on them for designing a good motor. But like, why do they sell for $150K now?
God only knows.
Right? It's because we just want to go back to that time so bad. And what I found really funny was the whole BMW thing. So people start saying like, oh, well, is it even a Toyota because it's co-developed with BMW?
Right.
It's missing the pure Toyota.
Sure.
But like, you look at the original one, the original 4th gen, the Mark IV, the famous one, that's a Lexus.
Yeah.
Toyota had less engineering in the Mark IV than they do in the new one.
Sure.
It was a Lexus SC400, a car that was also totally just fine.
Yep.
They took that chassis, they changed the body, they put they reconfigured the engine a little bit, gave it a 6-speed, and made it a Toyota sports car instead of a luxury sports car.
100%.
But like, that was more of a parts bin car than the new one ever was.
Oh yeah.
There's so much more actual design and engineer and whatever pure Toyota means. It's a kind of a meaningless phrase, but there's more of that in the new one, and they all just kind of get mixed up, all because people have this idea of this car that they want.
Sure.
And it won't ever be that thing.
Never. And that's why they pay $150,000 for the old one.
Exactly.
Because they're not getting what they want out of the new one. Even though the new Supra, I had looked at one of the car shows or whatever, it's a nice car.
Yeah, of course.
It has everything you'd ever want.
It's a nice car. Someone's already made 1,000 horsepower in that motor.
Right.
So like, all of the arguments
are gone.
Yeah, of like, oh, well, it'll never be as good as the old one because why?
Yeah, exactly. You mean you don't want it to rattle when you drive down the road because it's 25 years old? You don't want latest technology? Come on now, let's be realistic. I mean, it's, I know Steve just put up the Dodge Dart.
Yeah.
Right. puke because holy shit. And if I ever see a true Mopar guy driving a new Dodge Dart, we are no longer friends.
I
because
remember
what
when the Dart
the
came out.
Fuck.
Yes, and this is such a good example of, and hey, this is not the only betrayal by Dodge of
I know.
of taking a big steamy shit on an old name. You know, where it's like, here's a name. It really feels like to them, you know, people take these names and they apply their own memories and their own things to them, and it's like, that's what that car means to me.
Yeah.
To a company like Dodge, none of that applies because they're not you.
No.
They're a company trying to turn a profit.
Exactly.
And what will sell better? Because the Dodge Dart replaced the Caliber,
Right.
I believe.
Yeah.
I think so, right?
Not the Neon?
No, because the Caliber replaced the Neon.
Oh, right. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry.
We
yes,
all kind of forget about the
correct.
Caliber because
Yeah.
it was also a huge heap of shit.
Yeah, of course it was.
They took a Neon and then they turned it into a toaster for a couple years. And then they were like, oh, that was a terrible idea.
But we sold a bunch, so it really doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Yeah.
Actually, have you ever driven a Caliber?
Thankfully, no.
It's the single worst car I've ever driven. I had a rental one, and I can't describe the number of things that rattled and shaked. And like, sure, it's a rental, so it was probably beat up.
Oh, yeah.
But like, oh my God, it was like driving in a 3D printed plastic car. It was a joke. I couldn't believe how bad it was. Anyway, so they replaced that with, the Dart. And they did the mistake of saying, we're coming out with a new car.
Right.
And we're going to call it the Dart. And everyone got a big boner.
Sure, of course they did.
And then it was very, very quickly lost. Immediate flaccid.
Yep.
Midnight to 6 o'clock.
Yep, D-rection.
Because
Yep.
D-rection.
Yep.
Because of what it was. And there's nothing exciting there.
I haven't recovered from that because I thought it was just crap. You know, I don't think the Charger was any better, to be honest with you.
No,
the
of course,
four-door fucking crap on that.
They absolutely missed the mark
You
on
know.
the Charger. And again, that was a case of like, they had this platform, right?
Right.
They had it's the 300C platform.
Let's just, make more money.
Sure. Well, and that's a platform that they inherited from Mercedes when they inherited it to make the 300C.
Sure.
The thing was already fucking 10 years old.
Exactly.
Like, it's
Exactly.
an old Mercedes platform that they were like, we don't want this anymore.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, what else can we make? And they plunked a Charger on it, and they plunked it. They recovered a little bit with the Challenger.
They did.
It's worth noting, it's 2021. It's still on that platform.
It is.
Like, that chassis got to
It is.
be 30 years old
Yeah.
at this point.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it, because people are lining up to buy that shit.
I guess.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But if it ain't good, people will still buy it.
Yeah, they do. They definitely they do. But we're talking nostalgia and names and stuff like that. Where does the Bronco fit into that?
Good point. So the Bronco is a good case where somebody actually gets it right. So we had heard, again, they always do this thing where they're like, we're gonna bring back the whatever it is,
Sure.
Bronco, and everybody immediately got excited.
Yeah.
And then, as things dripped and came out and whatever, it comes out, and they delivered exactly what people wanted.
Right.
It's a 4x4, chunky, good styled, still has tech in it. It looks close enough to the old one that you would be able to recognize it immediately.
Right.
It's got that Bronco look, and they really didn't skimp on anything. No, that the Bronco is a perfect example of how to do a I don't even want to say it's a retro necessarily.
Because it's really not. No.
Because it's not about making it retro styled. It's more about it. It's more about it being the proper homage to what the original car was, right? And I think that Steve's got the Trailblazer. Let's just compare real quickly. So, the Trailblazer from Chevy. Trailblazer is a also pretty famous SUV.
Sure.
Right? Now,
Sure.
when the new Chevy Blazer came out, there was really no fanfare because they just came out with it one day. They didn't.
Right.
They didn't really tease it.
Right.
Probably because they knew better at that point.
Right.
They had seen enough screw-ups.
Of course.
That when it came out, it kind of went under the radar. But it's an Equinox, I think. That's all it is.
Sure.
It's just
100%.
It's just a Chevy crossover.
But would you agree that, and I'm with you, that the Trailblazer came out and everybody was like, but the Bronco was a big deal. But
Yes.
do you not believe that the Bronco was a big deal to our generation and maybe a little bit older Because O.J. Simpson?
Well, that's just the thing. Why is the Bronco famous? Is it because it was really great?
Fuck no. It was horrible.
It's because it was a famous car. It was a car made famous.
Right.
Right.
So when we think about nostalgia and going back, I think of people that want Broncos and love Broncos going, dude, do you want to kill your wife? Like, what's the deal here? You know, like, do you want to be that guy running down the highway and what? Right? I mean, but truly, ask anybody, say Ford Bronco, the first thing they'll tell you, O.J. Simpson and a white Ford Bronco.
Sure.
Because that was everything that was for how many years with that trial on or whatever, and made famous by the guy and the whole. I think that's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, like the Bronco was a popular choice for a capable SUV at the time.
Sure.
At the time, what could you buy in an SUV? There wasn't a lot. It was kind of one of those first boxy.
Fair.
Maybe even before the term SUV really was like a household name, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the Bronco was before that.
Yeah, it was more like I don't know what they. It was like a
truck with a back on it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. And so it filled a pretty unique marketplace at the time, and then those actually with the invent of the sort of modern SUV, those all kind of went away.
Yeah.
They just died. They weren't really a thing. You get a truck, and the more we move forward, the whole idea of an SUV being, a truck platform, passenger carrying thing has really kind of morphed and changed, and now there's crossovers, and most crossovers now are built on like small car platforms.
Sure.
So it goes back to fill a thing that, again, hasn't really been a thing since the old one.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think ORV, they used to call them off-road vehicles, and they never really had a connection to the everyday person that, well, why would I want an off-road vehicle for my daily commute?
Right.
Until modern times now, it's like, well, I need to have everything. It needs to be 4x4, it needs to be lifted, it needs to be comfortable. It has to have all the technology. Like, we can't just have one, we have to have all.
Sure.
Right? But yeah, I think about that because, I'm sure next year there'll be another thing. We're going to pay, Chevy or Ford or whoever's going to say, well, they already have the Impala. I'm trying to think of a name, but something's going to come out and everybody's going to go the same thing. Like you said, it takes me back to this time, and they missed the mark. It's like, well, you can't go back in time, man. You got to move forward. And if you actually look at it for what it is, like you said, they're actually pretty cool.
They are, well, and that's the thing. And that's the case with almost all of them. There are some exceptions, most of them being Dodge, because those are genuinely just not very good. But generally, if you remove this idea of this thing that you want that you'll never get again, the cars are all pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I certainly don't blame manufacturers for having this idea of coming out with this car and not just not totally appealing to again, a considerably small sector of the market.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Who buys cars? If it's a simple graph, I mean, enthusiasts are what, 20% maybe
at the most.
As far as people like us who will go and have a whole conversation and go on the internet and talk and discuss and we'll spend all day talking about cars because we love them.
Yep.
We're a pretty small, as far as the percentage of the demographic of people who purchase cars.
Oh, it's the enthusiasts. Well, you'll see in a motor show, there'll be 5 halls filled with all new tech cars and new releases and concepts and whatever. And then the enthusiast hall is the back corner in the black where the lights aren't very good and everybody's going out for a smoke break every 15 minutes. But it's nothing in comparison because, like we said, you go to buy a vehicle, you're looking at mileage, is it safe for my family? You're looking at all those things. And if you looked at the new Integra, you'd go, wow, that's actually a great vehicle. I'm going to purchase it because it makes sense for me to have.
Right. So, it's just interesting that Ford doing Bronco is a smart business move.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Because that's a pretty universally wanted platform. There's a lot that actually fills a segment that's in demand. Acura doing an old Type R, Type Integra, I mean, who genuinely speaking, if they brought back what people wanted, and by people, I mean, again, the enthusiast community, Okay, so let's just say that they make a turbocharged 6-speed front-wheel drive, 2-door or slash, it's a 3-door, and they put it on the market for, I don't know, it's an Acura, so it's going to be 35 to 40 grand.
Absolutely.
Right? So the people going to buy these cars are going to go, okay, I want all these things. I want a coupe, and I want it sporty, and I want a turbo, and I want a manual. And then they go, oh, a BRZ is like 10 grand cheaper.
Right.
A GT86 is like 10 grand cheaper.
Yeah.
Oh, there's also the new Nissan Z Car that's coming out. That's going to be maybe about the same. Certainly might be better. It's rear-wheel drive.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. I can't imagine they would have sold a ton of them, is the thing.
I agree with you. And again, their marketing teams are going, who's the buyer?
Yes.
Where's the money? And that's what we're focusing on.
Yes.
And that's why they don't ask us our opinion.
Right, because we don't matter.
No, of course not.
Of course not. We'll just talk about it to whoever is going to pretend to listen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the 3 people watching right now. I hope.
Anyway, so yeah, I thought that was an interesting conversation because anytime that comes up, anytime there's a throwback, people talk about an old car being brought back. And again, there's a dozen other examples that we could use and a bunch of examples of why we'll never see certain cars come back. It's like there's been a rumor that Mazda's going to bring the RX-7 back forever. No, they won't. They coming from me specifically, who is a Mazda rotary.
Yep.
I had an RX-7, an RX-8. I am an enthusiast of that.
Sure.
They will not bring the RX-7 back because they know better.
Right.
They'll never make me happy.
Yeah, right.
Whatever car they come up with, if they call it an RX-7, it's not going to be right.
It's not going to be right. And that's fair. But if there's money there, you never know.
Right. But again, it comes down to who's going to buy that car.
That's right.
And what's the competition.
What's the competition, yeah. Did you make it to work safely yesterday? Obviously you did. What I mean is no ditch, no... No ditch,
no. I have a confession to make.
Okay.
I'm one of the many people that, what is it today? It's November 17th. It's my daughter's birthday today.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you to me.
Well, yeah. You're the one buying the gifts and the cake. You and I are on the same page here. Happy birthday should be to me. Because I'm the one that made it fucking happy.
So I was one of many people who went, oh, geez, it's the middle of October. I should probably change my tires out because it's going to be snowing soon. And then I went outside and it was like 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And it was nice. And then it was November and I was like, well, I should really change my tires because it's November now. And then I went outside and it was nice.
Still nice, yeah.
And then it was the middle of November and I said, I think I should probably change my tires. And then we got 2.5 feet of snow. And I have not changed my tires. So
wow.
I'm one of the many stupid people who do not have the right tires on. But thankfully, I did make it because I'm not a total idiot driver. But
right. And I changed mine today. And I'm not too far away from you on that one because I thought the same thing. But hey, it's winter. We never get away from it. We get teased every year, and we'll forget because that's what we do. And next year we'll be talking about the same thing and about not putting the tires on. But the one thing I love though is the remote start.
Of course.
Yeah. And by remote start, I mean telling my son to go start my vehicle. But and he goes and grabs the remote and actually starts it for me. But no, seriously though, we're in winter.
Yep.
As we are every year in Alberta, we need to get your winter tires on. You need to get a remote starter because honestly, other than it being comfortable when you get in, it's actually good for your vehicle to run for a few minutes when it's that cold and that windy.
Yep.
So that it actually lasts you longer than a year.
Instead of starting it up right in the parking lot, it's cold, it's idling at 3,000 RPM.
Exactly.
And you just bang it all the way to work.
Right.
Yeah, bad news.
We've all done it.
Of course.
But honestly, even this morning, it's not blowing snow and it's not snowing. Still winter out, still cold out. Wake up, make yourself a coffee, hit the button on your remote start, get on with your day. You go out, your vehicle's ready to go.
That's right. If you ask me, it's what are the most important things that you need in this climate to be winter ready, right?
Sure.
Tires, remote starter, heated seats, life is good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We need it, and there's no getting around it. It's something, and we've made a business of it.
Absolutely. And 30 years, give or take, of
you bet.
Selling, installing. We've come to. There's not many people here that don't have a remote starter.
No.
And any of the ones that don't usually have their names in the book to get one put in
Right.
this year.
It's funny, with all the things that we sell in our business, JBs and like we sell a lot of products. There's 200 lines or 300 lines.
Yep.
First person, or when a person first starts, 3 months go by and they're part of the team, and the initiation's all done and the hazing's all done and all that stuff. The first thing they get is a remote starter.
Yeah, of course.
Like it's you can have anything you want. How about a remote starter?
It's funny. It's really one of those things that that there are some things that before you have them, you're like, that would be nice. And then you have it for the first time, and it's like, never again will I go without.
Yeah.
Anytime I ask someone, or anytime it comes up and we talk about remote starters, no, I don't have a remote starter. I'm like, why?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I don't really need one.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do.
You're wrong.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to be a dick.
Yeah.
But you're incorrect.
Yeah.
You're wrong. You do need one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It like I said, once you have it, there's no going back to it.
No.
And like, JB's 30 plus years stood behind all the products we ever sold. That's why we offer lifetime warranty on anything that we do.
Well, and I think part of it too is I think for some people there's a bit of a misconception that's like, well,
sure.
A remote starter, I don't have $800.
Right.
Well, you don't need to have $800.
That's right.
You can get into a remote starter for half of that now.
Yeah.
Especially on any newer vehicle. Like you can do a simple digital 3-lock start. You don't have to add a remote to the keys anymore. You can do it off your factory fob.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a touch under $500, I think, installed, end of the day, out of the door. Pretty damn good deal.
And you're right, but what we've seen that, and we noticed that some customers are saying, hey, it's a bit of an investment, and that's why our team decided to have financing, right? And we have financing options available on all the stuff, so it helps, that I'd like to have the starter. Things aren't what they need to be right now. Hey, I can finance it. Payments, they work out however. We have PayBrite. We have I can't remember the other one off the top of my head, but Capital. But it's we have options, And the other thing, and I told my wife, and I'm driving her vehicle today, to get the winter tires done. But I also got the battery check done because nothing worse than dead battery and minus 40, minus 30. And it's one of those things that you never think about until the car doesn't start.
100%.
Yep. Oh, it was cold out. That's why it hesitated or struggled to turn over. No, it's because the battery's going away, and you need to do something about it. So you can stop by any JBs. We'll do a free battery check for you. Make sure your battery's good to go. We do have a line on batteries if you do need one, but at least once you get that battery check done, you have peace of mind going into the season.
Yeah,
even
it's
if you
an easy
don't need
thing
one.
to do, and you'll
Absolutely.
know in minutes.
Takes a few minutes.
Yeah. But I mean, otherwise, it's cold now. So hit the remote start, bundle up, turn the seat heater on. Like you said, grab a coffee, and we'll all get through another year.
We will.
Yeah.
I think we should leave.
I think so. Yeah. I feel, I think we should. I think we should sign off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for anyone who tuned in and who's doing downloads and listening. And
absolutely, we appreciate it.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. We'll have some more stuff to talk about.
Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to the JBs Powercast.
You can find us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you're a podcast listener, you can find us on most popular platforms.
The JBs Powercast has been a JBs Power Center production and is produced by Sean Landsman and Stephen MD, with hosts Corey and Adel.